And thank you.
It's a pleasure for having us.
So it's been a long day, but then the president has now declared a state of emergency. Let me start with you, SEN. Do you think all the conditions prescribed by the Constitution were met before that declaration?
Yes, I think so. Section 305, subsection 2 stipulates what conditions the president can make a proclamation of state of emergency. And one of the critical provisions is where there is a threat to public safety and where there's a threat to national security and the economy. And the information, and Rivers State is very critical to Nigeria. I think the conditions stipulated in 305 of the Constitution, Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, we are satisfied, and the president was maybe in a good state, well advised to stop the what is going on in Rivers State, because everybody is actually sitting on the edge that he may descend into anarchy and break down to public safety. So I think the conditions on 305 were met.
All right. Mr. Akibo, let me come to you. Talk to us about the legality of the president's presidential declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State.
Well, I can tell you, as the president is the father and grandfather of everybody in Nigeria, and it is his duty to, and as he has sworn, to defend the Constitution and obey it. And part of it is to ensure that there's security in Nigeria. And with what is happening, just like the learned SCN has rightly pointed out or opined, the conditionalities in Section 305 have been completely met, because there is a serious threat to lives and properties. There is a threat to security, and there is anarchy. Breakdown of law and order is almost imminent. And however, having declared that, it will send the gazette or the notice thereof to the National Assembly, both the Senate and the reps. Both of them will convene to consider whether they should approve the proclamation of the state of emergency. This is the position of the president has acted properly and appropriately.
So what happens in a situation where the National Assembly, the President of the Senate, and the Speaker of the House of Reps think otherwise?
If they think otherwise, that ends it. It means that the declaration is inchoate. But as it is, I think there is a lacuna in the Constitution. It should have, it's like putting the cart before the horse. I think the provision of Section 305, I think of 3 or thereabout, should have been, that the president will address the Senate first and the House of Reps. When they have approved, then he will now declare. But the Constitution says he will declare first and notify the Assembly, the National Assembly, which I individually sit. Maybe the President of the Senate will sit, the reps will sit to approve such proclamation. But I think that is putting the cart before the horse, because he has already appointed an administrator already. So what do we do? But if they disapprove of it, that ends the declaration.
All right, well, for proper perspective, let's go through what Section 305 says. It says, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the President may, by instruments published in the official gazette of the government of the Federation, issue a proclamation of a state of emergency in the Federation or any part thereof. The President shall immediately after the publication transmit copies of the official gazette of the government of the Federation containing the proclamation, including the details of the emergency, to the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Reps, which I think Mr. Akibo has, detailed for us. But, declaring a state of emergency, SN, this is for you now. Declaring a state of emergency is one thing. Suspending the elected officials in the states is another. Do you think the law permits the President to do both in this case? SN.
Yes, it does. I mean, the law, allows that when there's a state of emergency, it means that the democratic institutions, the elected governance institutions, has broken down, and that's why it's an emergency. So the doctrine of necessity applies, and the president can appoint an interim measure to restore order. Whether it is for 6 months, for 3 months, or period of time, is at the discretion of the president, subject to approval by the National Assembly. Some may argue that 6 months is such a long time to deny Rivers State, who have elected their governor and the House of Reps, the opportunity to be governed by those they elected. But suspending the elected democratic institutions is part of the declaration of state of emergency, and the president had the discretion under Section 305 to set the parameters.
But is that clearly stated in the Constitution, Essayed? Is it clearly stated in the Constitution, or this is also part of the lacuna Mr. Akimbolu was talking about earlier?
Yes, it is. It's part of the lacuna, and I think the president is actually playing on precedent. This is not the first time Nigerian president will invoke Section 305. We know what happened under Obasanjo, former President Obasanjo, when he declared state of emergency in respect to Ekiti State. There are so many instances where this president has exercised the power under Section 305, and nobody has challenged it in court that he has no powers. He has exercised powers beyond what the Constitution has provided. But I think the point is that in order to close the gap, the National Assembly needs to look closely at Section 305, because declaring state of emergency, just like Mr. Akimbolu has said, without approval from the National Assembly, appears to have given the president a lot of powers, to act in case of emergency. I think there's a need to regulate that power by subjecting it to the National Assembly. I think it's something that the National Assembly could look at through the constitutional review process.
All right, Mr. Akimbolu, let me come back to you. Is 6 months really a long time?
Well, I would just like the learned speaker said, in the past, I don't think there has been any lesser declaration of emergency. It has already been 6 months in the first instance, which can also be extended. So it's all in a bid to ensure that, normalcy will have returned, reason will have gained dominion over unreasonableness. Because when you look at it, the House of Assembly is at loggerhead with the executive is at loggerhead with with the House of Assembly. Nobody seems to understand one another. So the president, as the father of all, in one forum I have said it, that the president has been unpretentiously, magnanimous. He ought to have declared it even longer than now, but he exercised that restraint because he acted like a father to all. The president has been extremely fair, honestly, to all the parties in Rivers State, because this lawlessness did not start today, it didn't start yesterday, but he called them at a point to settle the issues, and just like he did in the case of Ondo State, when the illness of the departed former governor. So he did it and it worked there. One would have thought that it will work in Rivers State, but they pretended for about 1 week or a few days, simulated piece of the graveyard, I would call it, and at the end of the day, they returned to their trenches. This is the consequences. I think by the time they come back in 6 months, they will have put the house in order, they will have mended fences, and they will allow peace to reign.
Expectedly, but also, is this latest development, is it enough to douse the tension in Rivers State? Akimbolu?
Of course it is, because now those who are supporting the governor, they have nobody to support again. Those who are supporting the House of Assembly, they have nobody to support again. It's just like somebody who is fighting because of a woman, and the woman traveled abroad in your presence. So who will you be fighting again? So I think with this one, they will calm down. The House of Assembly will not be able to receive salary for 6 months. The commissioners are gone, at least tentatively. The governor is gone, tentatively. This is the same thing for the deputy governor. So I think by now it will be easier for the warring parties to come, to close ranks. Because as it is now, there is nothing to fight for. It is for you to save your life. If you don't save it, you may lose it completely. So, or because the president still has power to extend the 6 months. So they will not want it to happen. I believe, personally speaking for myself, I think they will want to come together. They will want to work together. They want to put the interest of Rivers State, at the topmost gear, and ensure that they will start identifying as a matter of topmost priority how they can make